Get ready for some Chinese newspeak. Because guess what? The crisis of the Uighur Muslims in China, it ain't over yet. And I don't even know if I'm even saying that right. But who gives a shit? Because whoever they are getting abused by communism. But no, seriously. I have literally had it up to here with China. I mean, these guys, man, human rights violations all over the damn place, privacy, spying, electronic surveillance, God, you name it. They're crazy. And the left here in America will be like, oh, that's not real communism, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Then how come there's no historical reference and no historical examples of real communism, huh? Yeah, well, we'll get into that discussion some other time. But anyway, United Nations Secretary General Antonio Guterres raised the plight of Muslims in China's Xinjiang region. During a visit to Beijing last week, a UN spokesman said on Monday, China has faced growing international condemnation for what it calls re-education. That's some of that newspeak there. And training centers in the remote western region. Actors say they are mass detention camps holding more than 1 million ethnic Uyghurs and other Muslims. China has shown their diplomats its re-education centers, and has spoken of absurd preachings which turn people into murderous devils. You know, that last bit sounds so familiar. Where have I heard that before? Oh, right, that's literally what American hyper-conservatives sound like. And not necessarily the exact same wording. Mind you, depending on how you interpret the Quran, you could become a very despicable sort of person. But it's certainly not a guarantee. And really, China, even if it was the case, this sort of thing is not excusable. It's just as bad as anything any Muslim has ever done in a different way. But the Secretary General discussed all relevant issues with the Chinese authorities. That includes the situation in Xinjiang. This is a quote of UN spokesman Stefan Dujarric, and what he said on Monday was that it's a weird name. But what they said on Monday, what the Secretary General told his Chinese interlocutors is that he fully stands by the initiative of the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights, Michelle Bachelet. This is not the first time China's got themselves in trouble. Oh no. Quite frankly, the country is becoming absolutely legendary, not just for human rights violations, but for animal rights violations as well. Need I mention the dog meat festivals and all the other sickening bullshit? But Bachelet has repeatedly pushed China to allow the United Nations access to investigate reports of disappearances and arbitrary detentions, particularly of Muslims in the Xinjiang region. China has previously said it would welcome UN officials if they avoided interfering in domestic matters. In short, you can look but you can't touch. And apparently, it would seem that Gutierrez has been completely consistent in private and in public on his position in the whole thing. And he has also stated that it is based on the full respect of the unity and territorial integrity of China. Condemnation of terrorist attacks as no cause or grievance can justify them, and that human rights must be fully respected in the fight against terrorism and in the prevention of violent extremism. Well, yeah, if you want principles. But it's starting to look like China basically doesn't have any principles, except those to, extreme authoritarian communism. Each community must feel that its identity is respected and that it fully belongs to the nation as a whole. Nice platitude, but in the end, really what's going on here is that China Like, if we're gonna do anything about it at all, at this point, if we're gonna do anything about it at all, we can't just hit him with a slap on the wrist. We got to take this seriously. Because China gets away with this shit so much, and we do nothing of any significance about it. That I've ever seen, anyway. We mostly do investigations, sanctions, nothing of any real consequence. Of course, if we try to push them too hard, they've got the largest standing military in the world. So we probably shouldn't fuck around with them too much. Personally, I would think, like, if they keep acting like this, we might as well just consider kicking them out of the United Nations. I would put that motion forward if I were on the UN Council. Kick them out of the fucking UN if they're going to keep acting like this. If it's as truly unacceptable as you say, then we need to just kick them out. Do something to them that will actually matter, but won't cause a war. I admit that's a very fine line to walk, but at this point, nothing else we do seems to be working. You've got two choices. Just stay out of it completely, since it is technically none of our business, or do something that actually fucking works. Now, my first choice, think of it what you will, is I would just stay out of it. Because, again, they're not our citizens, not our responsibility, not our problem. But if you really want to do something, if you are compelled by sympathy, which I understand, then try doing something that actually works, okay? Again, try, say, putting the motion forward saying China must leave the UN, or we're kicking you out. That, I think, would be much more effective. Anyway,